What's up, 8th graders? So today we are going to be learning about our next two properties of exponents, and that's the negative exponents and zero exponents. Okay, so these are extremely difficult, but they can be a little bit confusing. So we are going to be, let's look at negative first. When you have a negative exponent, the base moves to the other side of the fraction bar and has a positive exponent. So what that means is you're kind of just flipping it and changing it from a negative to a positive. And so, for instance, if you have a to the negative nth power, because it's a negative exponent, because we can't have negative exponents, you're actually going to put your base and that exponent underneath the fraction bar, and you're going to change your negative exponent to a positive. And so then you'll have 1 over a to the nth power, as long as a is not equal to 0, because a is that you can never have a 0 power of a base. Or if you already have a fraction and you have 1 over a to the negative nth power, again, we're just going to kind of flip that and then make a to the nth power as a regular exponent. And so let's kind of look at this example here. If we have 2 to the negative third power, we are actually going to end up having, let me get my little fraction here, we will actually end up having to change that to 1 to the third power. So let's get my power here. Where is it? I am not seeing, oh, that's right. We will end up just having 2 to the third power. Okay, and we could actually reduce that a little bit farther if we wanted to, because we could do 2 times 2 times 2 if we wanted to reduce that down, but we don't have to. And then also we can look at this here, we can have 1 over z to the negative half powers, and because it's a negative exponent, we're actually just going to flip that and put it so it's no longer negative and just to have z to the second power. So in reality, you're just constantly kind of flipping your fractions into, or your exponents from fractions to non-fractions if there's a negative. With 0, this one's pretty easy because a to the 0 power is always 1, as long as a does not equal 0. And so anytime for all basics except 0, an exponent of a 0 makes a piece equal to 1. So 15th to the 0 power is just going to be literally 1. Z to the 0 power, again, is just going to be 1. And so 0 power is pretty easy. Anytime you have a 0 exponent, it's just automatically 1. And so let's kind of go down here and look at this. Use property of x to simplify. So we're not trying to get a final answer, we're just simplifying this. So if you have 1 over 32 to the negative third power, because it's a negative exponent, hold on. Because it's a negative exponent, all we do is just flip it. And so now instead of having a fraction, we're just going to change it so it's not a fraction and make our exponent positive. Again, we can go down here and kind of do the exact same thing. 3 times d to the second times d to the negative halves. So again, what we can do is we can kind of just go through our process slowly to figure out. So let's first simplify our negative, and then we can think about eliminating once we go from there. First of all, I want to increase the size of my font. And so what we could do from here is that first let's get rid of that negative. And so let's keep 3d to the second on top because those aren't negative, but our d to the negative 2 will drop to the bottom and become a positive. And then from here, I'm hoping that you can see that we can actually simplify this a little bit farther, because if we have 2 d's on top and 2 d's on bottom, we are actually going to be able to eliminate those and be left with a 3. And so our answer here is actually just 3, which is kind of weird to look at, right? But we can kind of talk about that a little bit more in the future. 125 to the negative third, again, all we do is we flip that fraction and make our exponent positive, and so we'll end up having 1 over 125 to the positive 3. We can come down here and kind of look at this one as well. Before we can do this, we actually have to simplify, and so what we'll end up doing is we'll do 3 times 3 times 3 and end up getting 27. So that'll be negative 27 x to the negative thirds. And then 5 is also just going to be 1. I'm running out of time, and so if you have any questions on this activity, please let me know. But you can go ahead and start it, and then reach out if you have any questions.